The Republic of Benin, also known as Benin, is a French-speaking nation in West Africa. Until 1975, it was known as Dahomey or Dahomania, which was the name of the ancient Fon Kingdom. There is no actual relationship between the Benin Republic, which is regarded as the birthplace of Voodoo religion, and the Kingdom of Benin or Benin City in Nigeria. The country was named after the body of water on which it lies, the Bight of Benin. The nation shares borders with Burkina Faso and Niger to the north, Togo to the west, Nigeria to the east, and the Bight of Benin to the south. Its capital is Cotonou, but its seat of government is Cotonou. Cotonou has the country's only seaport and international airport. Besides, it is the most populous city and economic capital. Its population, which was predicted to be around 13 million in 2021, is concentrated on the southern shore of the Bight of Benin, which is a component of the Gulf of Guinea, and it is located in the northernmost tropical region of the Atlantic Ocean. It is a tropical country that depends on agriculture and exports cotton and palm oil. Subsistence farming generates some jobs and revenue. Fon, Bariba, Yoruba, and Dendi are amongst the indigenous languages spoken in Benin, in addition to French, the country's official language. Sunni Islam is the most prevalent religion in Benin, followed by Roman Catholicism, Vodou, and Protestantism. The president of Benin is the head of state and the head of government, and its political system is premised on a democratic multi-party structure. As a consequence, the government and the legislature have the authority to pass legislation. The 1919 Benin Constitution and switch to democracy in 1991 are the guideline for the current political structure. Benin had 6 departments or provinces for numerous years before they were partitioned in 1999. What is more, there are 77 communes in the provinces. It has various non-sovereign monarchs which descended from pre-colonial kingdoms. They are mostly ceremonial and subject to civil as well as political authority. Consequently, they do not have a formal constitutional position. Notwithstanding, they are frequently quoted by Beninese politicians for electoral support, and they have a significant influence on political issues within their domains. Nationally, the monarchs are represented by lobbying organizations like the High Council of Kings of Benin. Present-day Benin was divided into various regions with various political structures and ethnicities before the year 1600. These were tribal areas and city-states along the coast. The Oyo Empire, which was a military force in the area, conducted raids and demanded tribute from the tribal nations and coastal kingdoms. The situation changed in the 17th and 18th centuries as a result of the establishment of the Kingdom of Dahomey and the Fon people's conquest of coastal regions. Dahomey had joined the Oyo Empire as a tributary and competed with Cotonou, an Oyo ally, without attacking it. In the northern region, tribal politics, the growth of Dahomey, and the competition with Cotonou persisted throughout the colonial and post-colonial times. Dahomey was renowned for its distinctive traditions and culture. Young boys were frequently apprenticed to more seasoned warriors who taught them military tactics until they were old enough to enlist. Another notable achievement of Dahomey was the establishment of an elite female military corps called the Dahomean, or Amazons in English. It acquired the moniker Little Black Sparta due to its emphasis on military training and accomplishment. The Kingdom of Dahomey was one of the political entities in the area that sold and transported a large number of people during the Atlantic slave trade to the New World from the 17th to the 19th centuries. The foregoing inspired the name the Slave Coast. Human sacrifice was a common practice in a rite known as the annual customs. On this occasion, thousands of slaves as well as captives were publicly beheaded for ritual purposes. According to some Dahomean religious doctrines, beheading heightens the authority and widens the might of the throne and its warriors. By 1750, the kings of Dahomey earned an estimated £250,000 per year through the sales of African war captives to European slave traders. The number of slaves shipped from the region decreased as a result of court procedures which required some war prisoners to be beheaded. In the 1780s, there were 102,000 people every decade. By the 1860s, there were only 24,000 people per decade. The Slave Trade Act of 1807, which was passed by Britain in 1808, played a role in the fall. The last slave ship left Benin for Brazil in 1885. This marked the end of this descent. Dahomey had begun to weaken and lost its role as the regional power by the middle of the 19th century. In 1892, the French occupied the region, and in 1899, the French Dahomey was incorporated into the broader French West Africa colonial area. The former slave owners sought to recast their authority over slaves as control over land, tenants, and lineage members. This was after the French government forbade the capture and sale of slaves. This led to a conflict amongst Dahomeans for the redistribution of labor and land control in 1895. Additionally, it resulted in villages aiming to redefine the boundaries of lands and fishing preserves. Furthermore, it culminated in villages aiming to redefine the boundaries of lands and fishing preserves. Under the leadership of Hubert Maga, France granted full independence to the Republic of Dahomey on the 1st of August 1960. In the post-colonial era, the People's Republic of Benin was a self-described Marxist-Leninist state that existed from 1975 to 1990. The multi-party Republic of Benin took its position in 1991. Hubert Maga, Ahomadegbe, Kerekou, etc. were prominent personalities during the military coups and government changes that occurred after 1960. Following the violent election of 1970, a presidential council was established. Maga handed over control to Ahomadegbe in 1972. After overthrowing the ruling triumvirate in 1972, Kerekou took office as president. He supported a new form of governance and opposed foreign ideologies including capitalism, communism, and socialism. What is more, he declared the nation officially Marxist on the 30th of November 1974, and after a year, he changed the name to the People's Republic of Benin. Throughout its existence, the People's Republic underwent several changes: a nationalist phase, a socialist phase, a phase characterized by an opening to Western nations and economic liberalism. Under the leadership of a group of young revolutionaries, the government began a socialist program in 1974. This was inclusive of nationalizing key economic sectors, overhauling the educational system, establishing agricultural cooperatives and new local government structures, as well as waging war against feudal forces like tribalism. Kerekou became president again in 1980, but this time he was elected president by the National Revolutionary Assembly and again in 1984. He developed links with China, North Korea, and Libya during this time, and almost all businesses and economic activity were put under state supervision. This led to a decline in international investment in Benin. Benin had stronger economic growth rates in the 1980s, but customs and tax revenues fell as a result of the closure of the Nigerian border with Benin. To that effect, the government was no longer able to pay the salaries of its employees. When the regime ran out of money to pay its soldiers in 1989, protests erupted. The financial sector collapsed. After a convention pushed Kerekou to release political prisoners and set up elections, he eventually renounced Marxism. Following the completion of the constitution for the newly established government, the name of the nation was formally changed to the Republic of Benin on the 1st of March 1990. He was the first president of the African mainland to lose his position in an election. He was defeated by Soglo in the 1991 contest. Nevertheless, after winning the 96 election, he came to power and he won a second term in an election in 2001, which led his opponent to allege electoral fraud. Kerekou and former President Soglo did not run in the 2006 elections because they were barred on account of age. Yayi Boni and Adrian faced off in a runoff in 2006. Boni won the second round of voting and took office on the 1st of April. In 2011, Boni was re-elected. Businessman Patrice Talon defeated investment banker and former Prime Minister Lionel Zinsou in the second round of the presidential elections held in 2016, since Boni Yayi was unable to compete for a third term due to constitutional restrictions. Talon took office on the 6th of April 2016, and he declared that he would first and foremost tackle constitutional reforms and limit presidents to a single 5-year term to fight complacency. He declared that he intends to reduce the number of members in the government from 28 to 16. By the way, he was re-elected in April 2021 in Benin. President Talon's administration has caused the country's democratic system to erode. His government increased the cost of registering voters and imposed new criteria for fielding candidates in 2018. All opposition parties were disallowed from participating in the 2019 parliamentary election, which was stacked with Talon's allies. As a result, Talon's supporters made up the entire legislature. As a result of changes made by the parliament, presidential candidates now require the support of at least 10% of Benin's MPs and mayors. Talon is in charge of the parliament and the majority of the mayorships. Hence, he decides who can run for president. International observers have condemned these changes, and the US government has partially stopped providing development assistance to the nation as a result. Benin's economy is underdeveloped and is reliant on local trade, cotton production, telecommunications, the port of Cotonou, and subsistence farming. As regards Benin's geographic location, which facilitates trade, transportation, transit, and tourism operations with its neighboring states, the agricultural sector, notably cotton, is the principal export. As such, it continues to generate the majority of the GDP. As a matter of fact, 40% of the GDP and approximately 80% of total official export receipts come from cotton. Benin intends to increase foreign investment, prioritize tourism, support the development of new agricultural and food processing technologies, and promote new information and communication technologies to further boost growth. The government has taken initiatives to enhance domestic electrical output, which has an impact on the growth of the nation's economy. Over the past 20 years, the GDP growth rate of 4 to 5% has remained constant, yet poverty has been rising. Benin's National Institute of Statistics and Economic Analysis reported that the percentage of people living in poverty rose from 36.2% in 2011 to 40.1% in 2015. It had the highest scores in the safety, rule of law, participation, and human rights categories, and it was ranked 18th out of 52 African nations. Incidentally, it was ranked 53rd out of 169 nations in Reporters Without Borders 2007 Worldwide Press Freedom Index. By the time Talon assumed office in 2016, the position dropped to the 78th spot, and it is now at the 113th position. In a 2005 survey of political, commercial, and police corruption, Benin was ranked 88th out of 159 nations.